All right, let's dive into a part of the Bible that's, well, a little less fire and brimstone and a little more fireworks, you know.
Okay.
We're tackling the Song of Songs, a book that's all about love, longing, and poetry. So passionate it practically, belts the page.
Yeah.
I have to admit, when you sent over your reading list with Song of Songs on it, I was intrigued.
Right.
It's not exactly, your typical biblical text. And I'm really curious to hear your take on it as we go through this. Luckily, we have an expert here who can help us navigate the intricate world of the Song of Songs.
Absolutely.
Ready to unpack some serious romance.
Let's do it. And the intrigue starts right with the title, Song of Songs, or in Hebrew, Shir Hashirim.
Okay.
That's not just a catchy phrase. It's actually a superlative, like saying this is the best, the ultimate love song.
Actually.
It's a pretty bold statement, and it definitely sets the stage for something special within the Hebrew Bible.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if something's labeled the best, it's bound to spark some debate.
Right.
And speaking of debate, there's that whole question of authorship. Right?
Yeah.
Is it King Solomon or someone else entirely?
Right off the bat, we run into a bit of a mystery. The text attributes the Song of Songs to King Solomon.
Right.
But there's been a lot of back and forth over the centuries about whether that's entirely accurate. Some scholars think it might be like a collection of poems from different times and authors, with maybe some by Solomon and others reflecting the broader experience of love in ancient Israel.
So it's like a beautiful love song mixtape. But we might not know exactly who all the artists are.
Right.
That kind of adds to the mystique, doesn't it? Okay, but let's dive into the heart of it, the actual poetry.
Okay.
One thing that jumps out is the intense longing and passion between the lovers. Like in chapter 1, verse 2, where it says, "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine." I mean, talk about setting the mood.
Yeah.
It's definitely not your typical Sunday school verse.
It's incredibly sensual, isn't it? And you hit on something important. The Song of Songs is filled with this, vibrant, evocative language that really taps into the senses. Yeah. They use metaphors like wine and perfume, right, which in that time and place were seen as intoxicating and alluring. It's almost as if you can smell the fragrance, feel the heat of their desire, just reading the words.
Exactly. It's like they're drawing you right into the experience of their love.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how the text switches between first, second, and third person.
Right.
Like those opening verses.
Yeah.
The woman is talking about her lover, then directly to him, then it shifts again. Does that have any particular significance?
That's a great observation. It's a technique called heterosis of person, and it's actually pretty common in ancient love poetry from that region. It creates this feeling of immediacy and intimacy, like we're eavesdropping on a private conversation between two people, completely caught up in the moment.
That makes sense. It definitely adds to the emotional intensity. And speaking of intensity, the Song of Songs also gets pretty descriptive when it comes to the female beloved's beauty, even in ways that challenge conventional beauty standards.
Right.
There's that line, "I am dark but lovely," which then compares her to tents of Kedar and curtains of Salma. What's the deal with that imagery? It seems a bit unusual.
It's one of those passages that really makes you stop and think. It's like she's saying, I'm beautiful, but not in the way you might expect. She's likened to these dark, rugged tents, which were associated with nomadic people.
Right.
But then she's also compared to luxurious tent curtains, probably fit for royalty.
Right.
So you have this fascinating contrast, a beauty that goes beyond the typical norms.
It's like she's embracing her uniqueness. And it really makes you question, what does beauty truly mean? And the song doesn't shy away from showing the yearning and searching that can be part of love too. Like in chapter 3, where the woman describes searching for her lover all night long. You can almost feel her desperation. The woman bringing her lover to her mother's house. What do you think that signifies in their culture? It seems like a pretty big step.
It's a moment that suggests a deepening of their relationship. Bringing her lover to her family home could be interpreted as a step towards formalizing their bond, especially within the cultural context of ancient Israel.
It's almost like a glimpse into ancient courtship rituals, isn't it?
Yeah.
But speaking of captivating details, the Song of Songs is full of such vivid metaphors.
Right.
Like comparing the lover to a gazelle or the woman's neck to the Tower of David.
Right.
What's the deeper meaning behind these comparisons?
The Song of Songs is so much more than surface-level beauty.
Right.
It uses these metaphors to create layers of meaning and reveal something about the lover's characters.
Okay.
For example, the gazelle is often associated with vitality, grace, and swiftness. It could be hinting at the lover's eagerness and energy, the excitement he brings to their relationship.
I see.
And the Tower of David, a symbol of strength and protection, might represent the woman's inner fortitude.
It's like each comparison adds a new dimension to how we see them and how they see each other. But one of the most striking things about the Song of Songs is how much it uses imagery from nature. Gardens, vineyards, fruits, animals. It's practically overflowing with natural beauty.
You're right. Nature plays a huge role. It's not just a backdrop. It's woven into the fabric of their love story. And that's not surprising given the importance of nature in ancient Israelite culture.
Yeah.
These natural elements enhance the portrayal of love, connecting it to themes of fertility, growth, and abundance.
It's like their love is intertwined with the natural world around them.
Yeah.
Blooming and flourishing alongside it.
Exactly. And that makes the image of foxes ruining the vineyards all the more jarring, don't you think?
Oh, that's right. Foxes were usually seen as sneaky and destructive creatures. What do you think that symbolizes?
Well, if we think about the vineyards as representing love's potential, its blossoming, its ability to bear fruit, then these little foxes could be anything that threatens that growth.
You know, it's like those little things that can creep into a relationship and cause damage if you're not careful.
Right.
Misunderstandings, jealousy, taking each other for granted.
That's a great connection. It's a reminder that love, as powerful as it is, can also be fragile. It needs to be nurtured and protected, both from outside forces and from those foxes we might carry within ourselves.
It's interesting how the Song of Songs balances that idyllic picture of love with these hints of danger, these subtle reminders that things aren't always, easy. It's definitely not shying away from some of the complexities. And speaking of things not being so simple, we can't ignore the fact that the Song of Songs is, well, pretty steamy in places.
Yeah.
There are some seriously descriptive passages that have sparked a lot of debate over the centuries. How have different interpretations tried to make sense of the more sensual aspects of this text?
That's one of the biggest questions that has surrounded the Song of Songs for, well, pretty much its entire existence.
Right.
It's created a real divide in how people approach the book. Some interpretations, often called allegorical, see the whole thing as a metaphor for God's love for his people. They argue that the passionate language is symbolic of a deep spiritual connection.
So it's not really about physical desire, but about the soul yearning for something greater.
Exactly. In that interpretation, the physical is a stand-in for the spiritual. But then you have other interpretations, sometimes called literal or typological, that focus more on the human dimension.
Okay.
They acknowledge the eroticism, seeing it as a celebration of marital love and the beauty of physical intimacy within a committed relationship.
It's amazing how two people can read the same text and come away with such different understandings. Does the Song of Songs itself offer any clues as to which interpretation might be right?
That's the beauty of this book, honestly. It doesn't explicitly tell you how to read it.
Right.
It leaves space for both perspectives. And I think there's something really valuable in that. Both the allegorical and literal interpretations have valid points, and exploring them both can give us a richer understanding.
It's almost like the Song of Songs is inviting us to bring our own experiences and beliefs to the table, to have a conversation with the text and with each other about what it means. Something else that struck me is that the Song of Songs doesn't just lavish praise on the woman. The male lover gets his fair share of compliments, too. His hair is described as raven black and his eyes like doves. What do you make of those descriptions?
It's interesting, isn't it? You're right. The Song of Songs doesn't fall into those typical gender stereotypes that we might expect from ancient texts.
Right.
The male lover isn't just strong and powerful. He's also beautiful, even delicate in some ways. Those descriptions, the dark hair, the dove-like eyes, seem to embrace both strength and tenderness. It's a much more nuanced view of masculinity.
When I read those lines, it made me think about how our ideas of what's masculine or feminine have evolved so much over time. Even back then, they were challenging some of those norms. And it's not just about physical appearance either. The Song of Songs also delves into the characters' inner lives, their thoughts and emotions, like that part where the woman is compared to a locked garden and a sealed fountain, What do you think those metaphors are trying to convey?
Those are powerful images full of symbolic weight. Locked garden, sealed fountain. It could be about her chastity, the idea of her being reserved for her husband. But it could also represent something deeper, like her inner world. Her thoughts, her emotions, they're precious, protected, and she gets to choose who she shares them with.
It reminds me of how we talk about vulnerability in relationships today. You don't just open yourself up to anyone. It takes trust, safety. I'm really struck by how the Song of Songs, even though it's ancient, speaks to some very modern ideas about consent and agency. There's that line that gets repeated, do not arouse or awaken love until it pleases. It feels like such a strong statement about setting boundaries and making choices.
That's a great observation. The Song of Songs repeatedly emphasizes that love shouldn't be forced or rushed. It has to unfold naturally, with respect and mutual desire. The woman's voice throughout the text is so strong and clear. She expresses her desires, her needs, her limits. It challenges any notion that women in ancient societies were always passive or voiceless.
It definitely flips the script on that. And that celebration of desire is amplified in the way the song uses hand symmetry. There's a section where the woman's movements are compared to the dance of Mahanaim. I have to admit, that one went over my head a little. What's the significance of that reference?
Mahanaim literally means two camps, and in the Bible, it's the place where Jacob encounters angels.
Right.
It's a place where the divine and human realms intersect. So comparing the woman's dance to Mahanaim elevates her movements, gives them a sense of sacred beauty. It suggests that even something as simple as dance can be a way of connecting with the spiritual.
So even in the midst of all this passionate romantic language, there are these hints of something deeper, something transcendent. And speaking of transcendence, the Song of Songs also uses some pretty striking metaphors drawn from royalty and military might. I'm thinking of the lines comparing the woman's neck to the Tower of David and her breasts to towers. Those comparisons seem a little bold, even for the Song of Songs. What's the message there?
They're definitely meant to get your attention. But beyond the obvious sensuality, they're also conveying something important about the woman's strength and stature. The Tower of David was a symbol of Jerusalem's power, its resilience. So by comparing the woman to such a powerful image, the Song of Songs elevates her, challenges the idea of female fragility.
She's like a fortress.
Is.
Beautiful, but also strong and unyielding. It's a powerful image.
Absolutely. And remember, in ancient literature, those kinds of metaphors often had multiple layers of meaning. The Tower of David, with its rounded shape, could also allude to the woman's curves, while the towers of her breasts further emphasize her sensuality. So you have this blending of strength and sensuality, creating this image of female empowerment.
It's amazing how much depth and complexity is packed into these seemingly simple metaphors. And this idea of female empowerment comes through in other ways, too, like how the woman actively seeks out her beloved. There's that part where she describes getting up in the middle of the night and going out into the city to find him. What do you think that says about her character?
That's one of my favorite scenes. It completely upends traditional gender roles.
Yeah.
She's not just waiting around for him to come to her. She's taking charge, going after what she wants, and she's doing it in the middle of the night, no less. It suggests a boldness, a willingness to defy expectations.
It's like she's saying, I'm not afraid to go after what I want, even if it means breaking the rules.
Exactly. And it reminds us that throughout history, women have been strong, courageous, and passionate individuals who refuse to let societal norms dictate their lives.
It's incredibly inspiring. Even thousands of years later, this deep dive has been such a revelation so far. The Song of Songs is so much more than just a collection of love poems. It's about desire, yes, but also about consent, agency, the enduring power of love. It makes you realize that even though it was written so long ago, it still speaks to us today in such profound ways.
It really does, and there's still more to explore. We've touched on the allegorical interpretations, but we haven't fully unpacked those tantalizing metaphors or the Song of Songs' ultimate message about the transformative nature of love. I'm eager to delve into those deeper layers with you.
You know, it's funny. When I first thought about diving into the Song of Songs, I was expecting something, pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
A celebration of romantic love.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit of ancient poetry. But this has been so much more than that. It's complex, layered, and it keeps sparking new questions. Earlier, you mentioned that some interpretations view the Song of Songs as an allegory for God's love for his people.
Right.
I'm really curious to hear more about that perspective. What do they point to in the text to support that view?
It's fascinating, isn't it, how the same words can speak to such different experiences.
Yeah.
For those who see it as an allegory, they focus on the intensity of the emotion, the longing and devotion expressed between the lovers. They draw parallels to the way we yearn for a connection with something greater than ourselves, that deep spiritual longing that many people feel.
So the passionate language, which on the surface might seem purely erotic, takes on a whole new meaning in that context.
Exactly. It becomes about the soul's desire for union with the divine. For example, the woman's search for her lover in the night could be seen as a metaphor for humanity's search for spiritual fulfillment.
It makes you realize how multi-layered the Song of Songs really is. Even if you don't subscribe to the allegorical interpretation, it adds another dimension to the way you read those passages. And speaking of layers, we can't forget the sheer beauty of the language itself.
Yeah.
The Song of Songs is packed with these incredibly rich metaphors. This is one that always sticks with me.
Right.
Where the woman's belly is compared to a heap of wheat encircled by lilies.
Yeah.
What's your take on that imagery?
Ah, that's a classic. It's such a beautiful example of how the Song of Songs blends sensuality and symbolism.
Yeah.
The heap of wheat is likely referring to the woman's rounded belly, suggesting fertility and abundance.
Right.
And then you have the lilies encircling it with their pure white petals and delicate fragrance.
Yeah.
Adding a layer of beauty and purity to the image.
You know, when you describe it that way, it reminds me of how we still associate those things with femininity today.
Yeah.
The life-giving power of a woman's body, the beauty and grace. It's like those ideas are woven into our cultural understanding.
It's true. And we can't forget that food imagery had a lot of symbolic meaning in ancient cultures. Wheat, especially, was a staple food representing nourishment and sustenance.
So the comparison to a heap of wheat could also be about the woman's ability to nourish and sustain her beloved, not just physically, but emotionally as well.
I think so. The Song of Songs keeps coming back to this idea of reciprocity.
Right.
How the lovers support and nurture each other. It's not a one-way street.
And that sense of mutual belonging is so beautifully expressed in that refrain that gets repeated throughout the text.
Right.
My lover is mine and I am his. It's such a powerful declaration of commitment.
It is. It speaks to the exclusivity of their love, the sense that they belong to each other in a way that sets them apart from the rest of the world. Their love creates its own space, its own reality.
It's like they've built their own little world and nobody else is allowed in, which makes you wonder, was this kind of idealized romantic love something that was available to everyone in ancient Israel? Or was it more of an elite experience?
That's a great question. And it's important to consider the social context.
Right.
The Song of Songs, with its focus on romantic love and the beauty of desire, likely reflects the experiences of those who had more leisure and resources. For many people in ancient Israel, love and marriage were probably more practical arrangements, driven by economic necessity or social obligations.
So maybe the Song of Songs is more of a glimpse into a kind of love that many people aspired to.
Right.
Even if it wasn't always attainable in their circumstances.
It's definitely a possibility. It reminds us that even ancient texts are products of their time and place, reflecting the experiences and perspectives of those who created them.
It's a good reminder to approach these texts with a critical eye. Not just taking them at face value, but considering the historical and cultural forces that shape them. One of the things I keep coming back to is how open-ended the Song of Songs is.
Yeah.
It doesn't offer a neat conclusion or a clear moral message.
Right.
It's just this beautiful, messy, and sometimes confusing exploration of love. Why do you think it continues to fascinate people centuries later? What do you see as its lasting legacy?
I think its enduring power lies in its honesty. It doesn't shy away from the complexities of love, the highs and the lows, the joys and the heartaches. It captures the full spectrum of human emotions, from the excitement of new love to the depths of longing and desire. And it does so through language that's so rich and evocative, it practically leaps off the page. It invites us to experience the power of love firsthand, to feel it in our own bodies and souls.
You know, you're right. It's like the Song of Songs gives us permission to embrace the fullness of love in all its messy glory.
Right.
It reminds us that it's not always about finding easy answers or neatly packaged truths. It's about the journey, the exploration, the constant discovery.
And because it's so open-ended, it allows each reader to find their own meaning in the text, to connect it to their own experiences of love, loss, and longing. It becomes a mirror reflecting our own deepest desires and aspirations.
This deep dive has been such a gift. I came in expecting a straightforward love story, but I'm leaving with a whole new understanding of the Song of Songs. It's complex, it's challenging, and it's utterly captivating. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope it sparked your own curiosity and left you pondering the mysteries and beauty of this ancient text. What are your final thoughts on the Song of Songs? Has this deep dive changed how you view this biblical book? We'd love to hear your reflections. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge. We'll be here to guide you every step of the way.